Hello, adventurers, and welcome to Dice Pirates Duet. If you are watching this, you're either at the very bottom of the sorting algorithm, you're our good friend, Robbie, or you're possibly watching this on YouTube if that channel ever gets off the ground. This is Dice Pirates Duet. This is a session 0, as it were, while we work out the bugs. There's a very good chance that once this live stream ends, it will never be seen again by man or beast. So, my name is Kevin Treadway. Below me is my lovely wife, Lisa. Say hi to the nice folks, Lisa. If you haven't watched us before, and I know for a fact that you haven't, we are currently playing through the adventure included in the new Dungeons & Dragons Essential Kit, the Dragon of Icespire Peak. This may be a little bit different from other actual play D&D sessions, if you've ever watched those, because we are going to be using the new sidekick rules to play the game one-on-one, or as it's sometimes poetically referred to as a duet. We'll be using Roll20 for maps and combat rolls, but good old-fashioned paper sheets for character reference and notes and all things like that. And I, of course, will sometimes also be making use of my actual physical dice to make secret rolls. Some of our combat will occur with full maps and counters. Others will be conducted entirely in the theater of the mind. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the lead writer of this adventure, Christopher Perkins, and the very talented team that worked on both it and some of the maps and illustrations you'll be seeing. I'm also adapting some of Jeff Preston's so-called 60 terrible character portraits. They're really not that bad. And a few sets purchased from the Roll20 Marketplace, Meditating Monkey's Token Borders, Gabriel Pickard's Vial Tiles, and the D&D Monster Manual itself. The lovely illustration you're about to see of Lisa's character was created by Lisa herself. Okay, let's get started. All right, one moment. Gonna switch up our screen here. Okay, Lisa is, I'm going to be the Dungeon Master, obviously. Lisa is going to be playing Quelliana, or Quel for short, a half-orc paladin of Ilmater. And we're going to learn who everyone else is as we go. Lisa, why don't you just briefly describe your character's life up to this point prior to setting out and becoming a paladin sort of officially?
She had kind of a rough start in life. She was dropped off at an orphanage by some orc, some actual adult orc. Nobody knows who he is or where they came from. Nobody's seen him since. It wasn't a great orphanage. It's like all the orphans got shelter and food, but not a lot of real attention. And she kind of got the worst part of it because being a half orc, she was treated a little more harshly than some of the other kids, and she was a little bit of a hellion. And she might have gone on the way and ended up being, she probably would end up a criminal, except one day when she was wandering around, she came upon this clearly an adventurer sleeping under a tree, and he had very nice armor, and his pack was right there. And so she reached in there and she stole something. She just grabbed something. She ran off. It was a little statue. And she thought about selling it. And then she thought about keeping it because it was really, really pretty. It just had these gem eyes. It just was really, really cool.
Faint, rosy glow coming from them.
Yeah. And then she started thinking about where this statue came from and where this adventure had been. And she started thinking about kind of the wider world, realizing that everything's a lot bigger than her little part of the world. And she realized she didn't want to keep it. And so she actually tracked down the adventurer. This was sometime, not long later, but he wasn't sleeping under the tree anymore. She tracked him down in a tavern, and she gave it back to him. She fessed up, and she got him, and he told her stories, and he told her that he was a paladin, and his stories were amazing, and he was a half elf, and
A
he was
half
actually
elf by the name of Rhythm, who you can
yep,
see here right next to her portrait.
Rhythm. That'd be yes. Um, and he basically encouraged her, one day you can grow up and you can be an adventurer. And she was like, I want to be a paladin. I want to be just like you. She wanted to be just like this person. It's like, this is her first probably good adult role model she'd ever had or come across. And most people might have just been like, yeah, right. But he looked at it very seriously, and he said basically, well, that's a hard road, but if you want that road, the first thing you need to do is come back to the orphanage with me, and you need to confess what you've done. So she did. He went with her, and he witnessed her telling what she'd done. And I mean, she wasn't supposed to be wandering around either, too. So and he witnessed her punishment, which was pretty harsh, as usual. And then afterward, he had he gave her like a little wooden holy symbol, and he basically said, if in 3 years, if you're still intent on doing this, find me. And he told her where she could go. And she actually, for 3 years later, she showed up for paladin training, and that's where she's kind of devoted her life since. She still gets a lot of odd looks. She kind of deliberately chose like I said, she more or less idolizes Rhythm, and she chose a elvish name for herself. Also, just kind of, I don't know, trying to not be as orcish.
Well, there's a little humor there too, because the Elvish translation of Quelena, uh, Quelliena is unexpected surprise.
Yes. um, and she's basically just tries very hard to be better than what her heritage and what her upbringing, because like a lot of half-orcs, she has those impulses just let out and be violent, and she tries to keep a kind of close rein on that. And one of her things is that she thinks anyone who wants to be redeemed or wants to be better should have the opportunity to be better. And yes, that absolutely includes orcs, goblins, anyone. She's not dumb, she's not naive, she's far from naive, but anyone should have a chance to be better.
A certainly noble aspiration, and it'll be interesting to watch her try to hold to it. I should add that one of the reasons that Rhythm believed in you as much as he did is that when you actually took this idol back, confessed to stealing it, and then returned, he witnessed not only that you were punished quite severely, but that you were punished quite unfairly. And he watched you endure that as well, seeming to help you understand that this would be your lot if you chose to walk the path of a paladin. That you would have to endure things that were incredibly unfair and still maintain a sort of sense of justice and righteousness. And of course, you're still very early on your journey, but he seems quite impressed with your performance so far. So when you joined him 3 years ago at the tender age of, 2 years ago, tender age of 16, you, of course, found him in the city of Neverwinter. This massive, large city on the Sword Coast. And Neverwinter, you can tell just by looking at the map, has been through its fair share of rough times. The most recent calamity which befell the city happened 20 years ago when Mount Hotenow, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably like a yokel. But anyway, massive volcano erupted, created the giant rift you see, destroyed a lot of outlying towns, and the city took many, many years to rebuild. That being said, right now, at this present time, it is currently, has come back to life, more or less, depending on where you live. But the reason that you first ran into Rhythm was because of the group that he associated with. There is an order of paladins, warriors, and clerics that has kind of dedicated themselves to the pursuit of justice. They're called the Light League, and they are administered by the priests of the Triad, this group of 3 deities that are known to pursue, sort of lawful good intentions. One of the gods that your character aspires to follow, Ilmater, is one of that triad. So this group is not directly religious order, but is kind of overseen by a religious order. The ostensible purpose of the Light League is to welcome all people of sort of good alignment who seek out justice. Rhythm does not follow one of those. One of the Trinity gods. He actually is a. Hold on, I'm gonna find it right here. Now, where did my notes? Well, here we go. First issue, missing the. Well, I'm not going to let this dead air. Suffice it to say, he does not follow one of the gods of the Trinity. He follows the elf moon goddess, and which is a goddess of, he follows an elf goddess of love, an unusual choice. But he's welcomed like all good aligned paladins in the Light League. Now, the Light League itself is actually split into 2 buildings. There is a building known as the Bastion of Light, which, if you direct your attention to the map, is right here. It's right near Tyr's hall. It's literally called, Super Friends notwithstanding, the Hall of Justice. So the Bastion of Light, really cool place. You've been there once. You remember being very nice. There was marble floors. It wasn't ostentatious, but it was very clean and elegant. It's where the administration of the order happens. No, if you look over here to the squatters, hold on one second. Let's see. I want to get this right. Beggars Nest. This whole area of the city is known as Beggars Nest because it is kind of a blight zone, never fully recovered. And this is where the second building of the Light League is, which is called simply the Retainer's Sanctuary. It is not a hovel. It's actually a couple of very nice, well-maintained, no frills wooden structures, because the Light League has this very unusual approach that is not often seen. It basically welcomes all people who want to help, even if they might not necessarily have the skills to be full adventurers, and these retainers, as they are called, are then sort of given room and board. So it's almost functions like a good aligned foreign legion, a place where people can go. There's some other aspects to it that are a little more sketchy, like sometimes criminals with good skills are suggested to, hey, maybe you could become a retainer for 2 years in lieu of taking up like room in our local prison or working on a labor gang. So most of the people that join are eager to eventually make it past retainer status to become what's called a bringer of light, or simply a bringer. And Rhythm is a bringer. You, when you first joined, you signed up as a retainer. And for the last 2 years, you spent a lot of time mostly in this area doing charity work, doing basic labor in between training for combat, training for battle. On occasion, Rhythm would actually take you outside the walls so that he could show you some of the wilds and the forests. These were very special sort of experiences, little touch and taste of danger. But most of your time was spent in just endless, training, turning yourself into this hopeful vessel for the god you would hope to represent. So a little bit more information about Beggars Nest. As you get over to the western side where this giant rift is, you actually see there's this sprawling, massive graveyard. It is, the size of it is, it's almost a necropolis. It's got tons and tons, row upon row of tombs and crypts, and it used to be well maintained, but ever since the eruption of Mount Hotenow, it has fallen into complete and utter ruin, because as related to that, when that volcano erupted, magic went through this kind of spasm. Necromantic magic kind of infested the place, and the dead walked. And it took a long time for them to get it under control, and unfortunately, there's still issues, and the city populace do not trust it. Some will still pay to go to the nicer plots escorted by clerics and knights, but most other people simply opt for cremation and stay well clear of the, turns out, quite ominously named Never Death Cemetery. So the reason I'm mentioning that is because you are going to be closer to it than you've ever been before as we sort of start our scene. Rhythm, you know that your sort of final test is approaching. Rhythm has upped the tempo of your training lately. He's made it very clear that he's kind of nervous for you, but also excited. And you were thinking that probably at the conclusion of this 10-day, early in the next 10-day, which for those of you paying attention at home is what a week is called in Forgotten Realms, you would be summoned to go on some kind of test. But you're surprised to discover that right about 10 p.m., there is a knock on the door of your simple cell. And when you get up and open it, Rhythm is there, and he's got that, his eyes are bright, he's got that tense expression on his face of him, like, nervous for you, and standing over his left shoulder is Yezreel. Let's talk about Yezreel. Yezreel is an elf. She is from a very high station, and you know from your time with the various diverse peoples that come through the Light League that not all elves are stuck up or snobbish or obnoxious, but boy howdy if Yezreel doesn't fulfill a kind of stereotype. Yezreel comes from an urban elven family. She seems quite proud of her status. She's very young for an elf, and maybe that contributes to her general haughtiness. She kind of has this goth motif. She's not a mage. She's not a fighter. She's definitely of the rogue type. She'll be represented by the expert class for the side of a sidekick. She's more of a utility player, and you get the feeling that while she does a pretty good job of mouthing all the stuff about justice and good, it feels more like the Light League is just a feather in her cap. And she came up and trained with you. She's never been directly inappropriate, but you definitely get the impression that as an orc, half-orc, she's definitely judging you. Maybe it's you. It's just, you see the smirk in the portrait. I mean, that really is like her resting face. At least every time she turns her eyes on you. And that's the exact expression on her face as she stares over Rhythm's shoulder as he looks at you and says, Quel, you've trained very hard. Tonight is the night where you will be given an opportunity to fully join the Light League and become a bringer of light. Are you prepared?
And she just like straightens up and she nods. Yes, I'm prepared.
Get your things. Get your armor. Make sure your weapons are ready. There could be trouble.
Okay.
So you basically get your stuff. You see that Yezreel already has donned like leather armor and is armed with. She herself has a. Wait a second. Where did I put it? Oh, I think I'm missing a piece of paper.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a little annoying. Super unprofessional of me. And my folder that would have the piece of paper that I'm missing is not here. This is what you call a technical glitch. Okay, a little bit of stress moment. Lisa, I need you to entertain folks for like 30 seconds. Here we go.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm not that entertaining, unfortunately. Not by myself. So, hey, I mean, few technical glitches, but so far everything seems to be going pretty well. And he's back. Yay. I'm not very entertaining.
Okay. I have no idea what you said, but I have no doubt, knowing you personally as I am married to you, that it was highly entertaining. I have my paperwork. Thank goodness for that. Okay, so what I was saying was that Yezreel is armed with a short sword, a short bow, a dagger, and that exact same haughty expression that you are all too used to. Maybe it's nerves, maybe he's trying to put you in the right frame of mind, but as soon as you are fully geared and armored, he leads you down a series of narrow hallways, out the door, and into the rather humid night air as we are now in early summer. It's night, as I said before. Despite the humidity, the stars are glittering sharp overhead as he makes his way down a series of streets, steadily working his way towards the east and heading in the direction almost like a maybe it's the lack of light in the direction over the city skyline, but you can almost sense the presence of the ruinous Never Death graveyard right nearby. After about 25 minutes, you are further east than you've ever seen. To be honest, you're not even aware that people lived out this far. And you arrive at this twisty lane that's like ankle deep in mud, filled with hovels and one or two shops that you're not really sure may or may not be permanently shuttered. There is a dilapidated, depressing feel, and part of that is also the smell of damp and rot that pervades this street. So Rhythm stops, and then he turns to look at you, and his features are actually mostly in gray because this area is so poorly lit that aside from one or two torches, your ultravision is actually how you're picking up most of the details. He lowers his voice, kind of leaning in, and says, "The poorest residents of Neverwinter have to live amidst this squalor every day. You two have done what you can to help alleviate their suffering on a daily basis. The situation that they find themselves in is a bit unusual and more dangerous than anything you have yet attempted. During the storm last week, this lane was flooded. You can see the mud everywhere. That means that there's a drain in the sewers that has ceased to function. Your task tonight is to enter the sewers through the gate up ahead and clear this obstruction." He hesitates for a second. He kind of like looks away and then just like looks back. He kind of lowers his voice even more. "I'm sorry to say that this close to Never Death, that obstruction is likely to be debris from that blighted cemetery. If remains are the cause of the clog, then you may need to move them respectfully to clear it. But any remains that you do find, do not bring them up, leave them below, and we will dispatch clerics in the morning to give them a proper burial.
Okay.
Also, only move what you must to clear the drain. Necromantic magic infests this area and is even stronger below ground. The dead here do not rest easy." And with that,
Understood.
he pulls a couple of healing potions from a pouch on the side. He hands one to you and one to Yisrael. And then he pulls a silver whistle. And he says, "I will not expect you to need this, but I am close to monitor you on this test. Should you run into problems, blow this whistle and I will come to your aid." Before you can do anything, Quel, Yezreel just reaches out, grabs, just snatches the whistle right out of his hand, gives you a look, and just says, "I don't want someone to panic and detract from our assessment," and goes to put it around her neck.
Bite my tongue. Always do.
Okay, so you're gonna let her hold on to the whistle.
I'll let her hold on to the whistle. I mean, if she's clearly in light armor and she's a rogue type, obviously she's going to be probably doing most of the scouting part anyway. So
Okay,
But I'll let her have the whistle. That is not something worth arguing about.
Okay. So Quel asks once more if you're sure you're ready.
I'm ready.
Yezreel says, I've actually been ready for probably a year, if I'm being honest, Master Rhythm. He says nothing to that, turns and leads you down an even more narrow and sort of twisty path, and finally arrives at a metal grate that is like sunk right into the middle of the alley, and with a massive padlock on it that looks relatively well kept, unlike everything else around here. He produces a key, turns it, unlocks the lock. You see him heave up the gate, fling it away, and then you see him like look down really carefully, like he's expecting to see something moving, but all is quiet. Maybe. Would you like to make a perception check?
Yes.
This will be the first roll of the game, so go ahead and make it in the clear. Just for those playing at home, we are not using any macros, so it's going to be just the raw dice rolls, and then she'll be announcing what her actual ad is. And I believe your perception is +1?
Okay, that's yeah. My perception is +1, so
wow, that's
15
actually
+1.
bodes well for the future. Okay, so you hear dripping water, you hear echoes, but otherwise absolute silence.
Seems quiet.
Yisrael actually has the nerve. Yisrael stands about 5'6". You stand how high?
Like 6'1".
6'1". She has the nerve to shoulder check you as she she says, "You're a little noisy, I've noticed in training, so I'd better go first."
Her shoulder check doesn't barely
No. Actually, it's more like she's rubbing up against like a rock wall or something. I mean, like it's clear that she's kind of trying to get in your space, but since you don't really move, it doesn't quite come off probably the way she would hope it would. Okay, so
right ahead, yes.
I'm going to go ahead and roll for her.
Oh, I think your mic cut out in a couple of words.
Can you hear it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll for her. Oh, I did. Okay, so I rolled a 5. So here's the best part. She trips. Trying to get in, she trips over there, makes this like woof sound, and then you hear a splat as she kind of falls into the muck that's just beneath. There's a pause, and then a voice, which to her credit sounds almost completely normal, says, "It's clear." And I assume you follow her down?
I follow her. I kind of give Rhythm a final look, and I follow Yisrael down.
As you go, he basically says really low, so only you can hear, "Good luck to you. Be careful."
Thanks.
Okay, so let's go into the sewers. And there we are. All right, give me 1 second here to see if we can't get in on this action. There we go. That's looking better. All right, there are our noble heroes. Okay.
Yay.
Oh, that's okay. So here we are. As you can see, you're standing on the stairs. Right. And directly ahead of you, at the bottom of the stairs, is a metal door, very rusted. It looks like a layer of thick rust is covering the entire thing. There's a horrible smell. It smells like sewage and swamp, but also like the sour, rotting smell of, I mean, you hate to almost put a word to it, but ancient death kind of comes close.
Okay, so does just adjust the door?
Yeah.
Is Yisrael at the door, or
no? She's actually standing where you see her on the map. She kind of waits for you to like move past her to see what's there, which is what I've just described, and then she's just kind of waiting there.
Okay, and I kind of look at her and like, do you still want to scout ahead, or should I take the lead?
Oh, you can take the lead. Doesn't look like, things are too dangerous. I think we'll be okay.
All right.
All right, you gonna head for the door? You gonna head for the door?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm going to head for the door. The downsides of push to talk.
Okay. So as you get close to it, as I said before, it is this massive rusted door. There is a like a handle. There's a lock hole, and there is a whole lot of rust.
There's a whole lot of what?
Rust.
Sorry, did you say it was locked or?
You haven't tried it yet.
All right, I'll try to open the door.
Okay, it's locked. So
of course, we weren't given a key.
You hear Yezreel behind you, and she's like, "You need me to open that door for you?"
Would you mind?
It's really no problem at all. She kind of like she pulls a set of lockpicks out of her belt, kneels down to the hall, and then like makes an effort to pick the lock. So
I don't laugh. I really don't.
So after about 2 minutes, you hear her curse, and because you actually speak Elvish, having learned it, she says a very, very naughty series of words, really inappropriate, shocking.
Are you having problem?
I think the lock's rusted shut. She pulls the tools out. She's like, I don't know what to do. The lock's shut. I guess maybe you're brutish. You want to just try and bash it down?
Yeah. Girl cracks her knuckles, limbers up her shoulders, and yeah, let's see if we can get this, get some muscle to work where finesse, could not.
All right, athletic strength check, please.
Ooh. My athletics is actually +5.
+5.
Sure is.
Okay, roll away.
So nice.
Okay, so that worked well. All right, let's see what lies beyond the door. Because you have ultra vision, your sight extends out quite a ways, and this is what you see. Let's see here. Let me.
Those mushrooms.
Yes. Hold on a second. I was just like getting. My door has gotten stuck. I was trying to delete it, but it does not want to allow itself to be selected. Very unkind of it. Oh wait, there it goes. I'm going to go ahead and delete it because that door is useless. You literally pulled so hard that you wrench, the handle pops off, and then a moment later the door itself kind of scrapes open, and then a moment later the hinges give way, and both of you have to take a step back as the entire thing just plummets with a loud boom that like echoes throughout the scattered tunnels and corridors that stretch away from this point. What you see in front of you is a foul-smelling cistern. And it is this whole thing's covered in about 3 to 4 inches of silt. The path that goes on is choked with rubble, but otherwise seems reasonably open. A tiny little trickle of water is making its way through. But what you see in the central area where the drain presumably is you see a skeleton. You see it's almost completely buried beneath this massive pile of like fungal growth. There's both these like mottled humps of green and these like bright red giant mushrooms that are like growing in and around the bones of one skeleton that you can see sort of like slumped next to this basin. Then there's another skeleton that's also just kind of like leaning up against its body is contorted in such a way that it almost looks like it was left here as a result of a flood. Like not that this skeleton crawled into the alcove and collapsed, but literally just was bumped up against here by a tremendous outpouring of water.
Can I tell what kind of like fungus that is? Is like
Uh,
anything I've ever seen?
it's nothing like anything you've ever seen. You can go ahead and make an intelligence check. I don't think you have any relevant skill.
No, I don't have nature or anything like that. So just straight up intelligence, which is
Straight
for
up intelligence.
yeah, it's gonna be a +0. So okay.
It's a
Nope.
big red mushroom. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look appetizing like someone would want to eat it.
Okay, well, it's clearly not causing any kind of blockage.
Oh no, it
Uh,
is. No, let's be.
oh,
Well, I mean, let's be clear.
oh,
That green muck you see is like this giant mossy humped thing. It looks like it is squatted firmly on top of whatever hole is at the bottom of that well.
okay. So this is like part of the blockage, the
Yeah,
part of the.
yeah. Where you see this little like circle, like right here, that is your drain.
Okay. Ugh. I mean, can we? How deep is that cistern? I mean,
No, it's like there's presumably some kind of metal grate under there. So it's not like there's a bottomless pit or anything. It's more like there's this grate and it's just gotten clogged up like a really grotesque shower drain.
okay. So we want to be. Ugh. Don't want to touch that. I can never
It
tell.
smells so bad, says Yisrael. She has made no effort to move into the room.
That's fine. If she just wants to let me do, I can do the work. I'm just trying to think of. All right, so I'll actually kind of walk up to the cistern and, how are we gonna like? I'm thinking, okay, if we break up.
Okay, so just hang on. Before you can even turn your mind to kind of clearing this blockage, you sort of wish you'd maybe studied a little harder or listened a little more attentively when Rhythm talked about some of the dangers of the wilds, or maybe this was a talk about the Underdark that he hadn't quite gotten around to give. Because as soon as you get to the edge of that fountain and start to like examine this thing, the biggest red mushroom that is sitting sprouting out of the rib cage of this skeleton, like suddenly starts to shimmer and twitch, and you see tendrils kind of scatter up as it gets ready to strike you. And you and I, get to roll initiative.
Oh boy, my initiative is -1. This will be fun.
I mean, hey, we're not. No. It's a plant, and they typically do not do too well. Did pretty well that time.
6 minus 1. That's 5 for me.
Okay.
I'm not fast. I hit hard. Hopefully.
You are not fast. Well said. I mean, weirdly enough,
stolid.
I mean, it's not fast either, and it still rolled like a 12.
I'm not fast.
No, okay. I mean, no, that I mean clearly. Okay, and then let me go ahead and tell you what. Why don't you roll for Yisrael as well? I want you to get used to this because when we next officially play, I'll be using the sidekick rules, and you'll be playing your sidekick. So Yisrael has a dex of +2.
So it's 11.
You just went quiet on me.
Sorry. It's 11 plus 2, so it's 13. No, it's the push to talk.
I know, but you have to use the push to talk. You hear me, my loud voice.
Your wonderful,
echoing through the
wonderful,
house.
your wonderful, booming, lovely voice.
Okay, so this is actually pretty cool. Yisrael gets initiative, and like she actually had her bow out because, as I said, she didn't particularly want to come into the room. So as soon as she sees this giant mushroom, let's go ahead and bring it onto the board here. As soon as she sees this giant mushroom, like animate, she does go ahead and fire at it. Why don't you go ahead and roll her attack? She's got +4 to hit.
Okay, 1 sec. So that's 6 plus 4, so that's 10.
Good news is this. It is a literally slow-moving plant, so it does a total... so she actually did hit. Go ahead and roll damage. It's 1d6 plus 2.
That's 3 plus 2 is 5.
So the short bow arrow cuts right through the big cup of this thing, and like you see a cloud of spores fly out, but it doesn't really seem to have much of an actual effect. Then it basically kind of shimmies and shudders and shuffles over to you. It's very slow moving, but as we've established, not as slow as you. Now, here's what's kind of interesting. The moment that it kind of weaves and pulls past the skeleton that it was growing out of, jerks and sits up. Like it just got woken up. So now a skeleton has joined the fray. Or at least will be next round. Wow, skeletons are surprisingly fast. Okay, so...
Of course they are.
And then those little tentacles fly up and are actually going to make 2 attacks at you.
Okay.
Your armor class is 18, I think?
18.
18. It's got +2 to hit. Attack 1. 17! So you dodge to one side as one of these tendrils just flicks off the shoulder of your chainmail. Then the other one comes from the other side. And again, blocked mostly by a sort of swivel and armor. But you're really glad because just the nearness of the tentacles are making your eyes burn. Yeah, it's definitely not good. And it's your turn.
Okay, I'm gonna try to hit the mushroom.
I feel like hitting the mushroom is probably the best way to go.
Yeah. Okay. So using my longsword, which is +5.
I've got great news for you. Its armor class is but 5. So literally, just don't roll a 1 and you will hit it.
I'm thinking I hit.
You hit most palpably. Go ahead and roll damage.
Okay, my damage is 1d8 plus 3. So that's 2 plus 5.
5 more points of damage. So you basically chop the top off of this thing. The smell grows even worse. Your eyes are burning even more. It seems this got giant hunks cut out of it, and it seems to you like maybe it's moving a little slower. It's hard to tell because it's already moving pretty slow. Let's move on. The next turn is Yisrael, and Yisrael sees the skeleton lift up, and you hear this loud shriek, like a ah! And it's really loud in this tiny echoing corridor, and then you hear the sound of footsteps quickly running away.
Yisrael!
Okay, are you going to shout after her?
Yes.
What are you going to... how are you going to... Do you want to say anything? You have a few seconds worth of words. You can say a sentence or two. Think in these terms. Do you want to persuade or intimidate?
Persuade.
Okay, so you're just going to shout...
Right. My if I was actually more dire, so I'd probably end up falling back. I'm gonna try to persuade. Come back.
Okay, that's gonna be It's just a simple comeback. Make a persuasion roll.
Well, this actually be +4. I'm an awfully charismatic half-orc.
You are very charismatic. I can attest to that.
That's 10 plus 1, so 14.
The footsteps fade into the distance.
Kind of mutter. I'm gonna mutter a little curse under my breath. I'm hopefully Elmatter will forgive me for a little orcish curse.
All Matter's pretty okay with cursing overall. He's not one of those gods. Okay, well, the fungus is next, and here it goes. And it's going to attack you 3 times this time.
Oh, joy.
Okay, here we go. 16. Those little tendrils trying to worm their way in through that chainmail, not having much luck. Same. 17. So close.
Glad I got that shield.
That last one was blocked directly by the shield. Unfortunately, while you were busy deflecting that, a friend was moving up to say hello. Hello.
Hey, hello, Boney.
So as soon as you lower the shield from that last tendril, you see this like horrifying skeleton coated in moss raise a rusty short sword and swing at you. And it has +4 to hit, a little bit better. Oh, there we go. No, did I roll?
I don't see anything.
18. Distracted by this giant fungus, the skeleton swings and definitely lands a blow. 1d6 +2. 6 points of damage.
Ow. That's like, okay, yeah.
Yep. Okay, that hurt. You're up.
Well, clearly the skeleton is more dangerous than the flailing fungal thing.
The flailing fungal thing attacked multiple times. It just hasn't hit yet. Also, the fungal thing has been damaged pretty significantly.
Good point. Okay, let's strike at the fungal thing with my sword.
Okay. You resisting the desire to shatter the skeleton, you try to end this horrible plant thing. Let's weed whack.
Ow. 4 + 5, so that's 9.
It has an armor class of 5. It is a moving mushroom. Thankfully...
You did say that.
Yeah. Go ahead and roll damage. You hit.
Okay, 1d8 + 4 + 3 is 7.
So, rearing back and realizing the dire situation that you find yourself in, you rear back with your longsword, swing, and the top of this grotesque shroom just detaches and disintegrates. The whole thing in its tentacles flop around spasmodically, then drop dead.
Yes.
The skeleton itself, of course, which is also technically dead, is still moving around. But the mushroom is dead. Dead.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
So, the skeleton now rears back using that opening and tries once more to thwack you, technical term, and succeeds, dealing 1d6 +2. Don't forget that you have a healing potion.
I do.
Because you just took 5 more points of damage.
I'm chugging the healing potion.
Okay, so for your action this turn, you basically quickly hold up your shield, thumb the cork off the stopper, and then glug the healing potion. 2d4 +2 hit points healed. Seven points total. Very nice.
Ooh. So what am I at now?
I don't know. You were keeping...
Sadly, I neglected to get myself a pencil when you sat down. So 12 minus 6. I was at 6, and the skeleton hit me
for 5, leaving you down to 1.
Leaving me down to 1, and now I have 7, so I'm at 8.
Okay, I will keep track of your hit points for you.
Next time I'll make sure
difficulty, folks.
Next time I'll make sure I have a pencil or pen. I'm sorry.
By folks, I mean Robbie. Hey, Robbie. Okay, so
hey, Robbie.
Here we go, and it will now attack again. It has been getting some really good rolls.
Ah!
That would be a critical hit. So it will now do 2d6 +2 damage. Ouch, that is rough.
This is vengeance for the Minotaur, isn't it?
Fun fact: Lisa almost died from a Minotaur.
No,
I'm sorry. Lisa ran me on a game once, and she was saying, and she put me up against a Minotaur, and I was a level 1 character, and she smeared me across the ground. It was absolutely vicious.
It was my very first time GMing anything ever, so...
Now, you're not doing great. But if you'll remember your orc heritage, it grants you something very special.
Yes, when I'm reduced to 0 hit points but not killed, I drop to 1 hit point instead, once per long rest.
Well,
So
you have dropped to 1 hit point and are not killed. So you're back down to 1 hit point. Now, you also have lay hands, which you can use if you would like.
Oh, so I can use lay hands on myself?
Absolutely.
I'm going to use lay hands on myself then. That's
okay. That now,
5 hit
so
points.
you've used every trick in the book at this point. This skeleton, like, for the record, super mad on. He has rolled nothing but hits. He's hit you every single time he has attacked. And guess what's about to happen?
He's going to attack me
He's going to attack you again. And just miss. Caught that one on the shield. It is your turn.
I'm gonna try to hit him. I'm gonna try to end him.
Okay. Make your attack roll. His armor class is 13.
$11 plus 5 is 16.
Hit. Roll damage.
1d8. That's 7 plus 3 is 10.
Okay, so with one titanic blow, you like swing, whoosh, and because this skeleton was coated in this moss, he actually was like somewhat more brittle than a normal skeleton would be. Most skeletons have around 15 hit points. Your boy here had 10.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead, and you're barely clinging to life. The skeleton shatter. Actually, it doesn't even shatter. It makes this kind of splut sound, and then it doesn't crumble. It just kind of thuds because it's held together with all these strings of moss and grue. And you are now left alone with your ragged breath in the middle of this cistern, quite aware of how close to death you just came.
Okay. I'm assuming the cistern is still clogged.
The cistern is still clogged. Are you going to go and take a look at it?
Yes.
Okay. So you step gingerly over the lip of this thing and into the cistern proper. And hold on 1 second. And you can see that this growth has it's like a carpet of moss. There's a few more of these little purple mushrooms, but you don't see any tendrils around them. They look like either they're younger or maybe just a slightly different breed, but they don't seem or strike you as like they're going to physically attack you.
Okay, I'm going to step on them, though.
Okay, so taking your sword, you kind of thwop them and mutilate them just to make sure they don't so much as twitch, but I mean, who can blame you? So it looks to me like, it looks to you after just taking a look at it very easily that with enough strength, you could probably reach in and just kind of grab this mass and just wrench it off of this great cover. Otherwise, you'll have to use your sword to kind of break it up and you're going to get coated in this horrible muck.
I'll try to rip it up then, yeah.
Okay, give me a strength athletics check.
Ooh, plus 5. I'm good at...
Okay,
13 plus
no
5,
problem. You crouch down, you reach, you grab this mass, you heave and just fling it like 10 feet away, and then all that's left is just like some hunks of debris and moss. You quickly gather those, and as you're sort of flinging against the wall, I want you to make a perception check for me.
Okay, that'll be plus 1.
Wow.
I see nothing. I'm too...
No, yeah, you're too busy.
I'm probably in pain or something.
So you...
And the smell is gross.
You fling these things away, and then eventually you hear one of the most beautiful sounds you've ever heard, which is...
Oh, wait, you kind of cut out a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. You hear one of the most beautiful sounds you've ever heard, the sound of water trickling from this blockage down the drain. The drain is clear.
Thank you, Ilmater.
As you sort of look up and prepare to go, you see Yezreel in the doorway, white as a sheet. She looks at you solemnly, nods, and says, "We did it."
Yes. Thanks for the help.
Well, it was a team effort, and I'm no fool, Quel. You did a sizable portion of that job. Thank goodness for that. Orc strength, or probably couldn't have cleared that drain. But did you see how my shortbow bolt clipped the mushroom? Dealt a lot of damage to it. So I was running to get help, and then halfway there I was like, well, I really shouldn't have left Quel. I wasn't thinking, and so I turned around and I came back, and so thank goodness you're all right, and we did it. We cleared the drain.
The drain is clear, and I'm going to walk past her.
So you basically make your way out of this foul sewer, and when you basically climb out of this little drainage thing, you see Rhythm standing there with his arms folded, and before you can say anything, Yezreel's like, the drain was clear. There was some kind of horrible mushroom thing, and there was a skeleton, but we took care of it.
This is a little, you know what? Yeah, this is one of those character things, like, you know what? No. Mostly I took care of it, Yezreel. And I look at Rhythm and say, she ran. She left me.
Rhythm turns to Yezreel and stares at her. Is this true? And Yezreel looks at you, and you see this look of pure rage go across her face. And just for an instant, and in that calm thing, she turns and she says, she did contribute more, but we both contributed a great deal.
You shot your arrow once.
And hit, which is more than I can say. Why are we have done what was asked, and now we should probably go. And
meanwhile, she's like, it's like, and here I'm like bleeding, The character's like bleeding and clearly is injured.
So Rhythm basically walks over while she's still talking, and then he puts his hand on her shoulder and she falls silent. And then he just points at you. He says, look at these wounds. You have no wounds upon you. My eyes tell me clearly what happened. Not only because of these wounds, but because I was watching the entire time. And I saw you sneak back up the passage. And he puts his hand on your shoulder, Lisa, and on Quel's shoulder, and uses his own lay hands. And you feel your hit points and wounds knit closed, and a blessed feeling of coolness, and the pain fades away, and you are whole once more.
Thank you.
I am honored to help a fellow bringer.
Oh, Quel smiles really big at that, and it's like,
you have done. Oh, go ahead.
It's just that no, she's actually completely missing the tusk on one side, so big toothy grin.
If you tune into later episodes, you'll probably find what her fascinating backstory is. She gives a big toothy one tusked smile, and at that exact moment he turns to Yezreel and basically just says, Yezreel, I'm sorry. You have potential, but you're still just not ready. And to her very limited credit, she seems to acknowledge this fact that she knows that she's not ready, or at least that she really has no argument to make in this area. So with that, just really gross and disgusting. You make your way back without further incident. Drain being cleared. You basically like wash off because it's really hideous. And when you come back to your room, you find that your meager possessions have already been packed for you. And Rhythm is waiting. He says, "And now I will conduct you to your permanent quarters as a fellow bringer." And you get to go into this building where the second floor, where all the bringers of light reside. And basically your room is still quite small, but since it's double the size of your previous room, it feels palatial. There's a bed. It's got like, it's an actual rope bed with like, rather than just pure, just a sack stuffed with hay. And it feels good. And you know you're going to sleep well tonight. But most importantly, you're going to sleep well because you finally achieved your dream as a full paladin working for the Light League. And that concludes our brief, relatively brief. Wow, we've been live for an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, not so relatively
All right.
brief. I guess that's like a full length session. Geez, too much paperwork. It's all getting away from me. Oh.
You okay?
It's one of those deals where like you look down and then it multiplies. Hold on, I've got it. I found what I was looking for. I have it. Oh gosh. So everybody, thank you so much for watching our very first ever Twitch stream, actual play. I think it actually worked. It's pretty much just one person watching now, but hey, maybe you'll see this on YouTube. And if you do, you can follow us on social media. I'm at FlamFlynn on Twitter and FlynnFlam82 on Instagram. Lisa, where are you at? Has Hyena on Twitter. And that's basically all she wrote. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. Just want to remind you, keep your flagons full and your dice warmed up. Have a wonderful evening.